This video is brought to you by Practical Music Theory for the Rock Guitarist, my new book, which is a comprehensive guide to all aspects of music theory necessary for playing rock guitar. From blues to the cycle of fifths, from understanding and using modes to choosing the right notes for a melodic solo, from pentatonic scales to chord construction and keys. It's all covered in a clear and concise manner. With accompanying video demonstrations, jam tracks and tabs, you'll learn to use the knowledge you gain in accessible ways that make sense for less than the cost of a few guitar lessons. Check out the link in the description for more details. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Today being Tuesday, of course, we're doing a top 5 list, and you've already seen the thumbnail and the title of the video, so there's not much point in me telling you what the video's about, but I will anyway. It's that kind of phenomenon when you hear a song, usually on the radio, and you think, oh, that's good, and yeah, I'm into that. So when you're a kid, what you do is you kind of save up your pocket money and you go out and buy the single and you play it again and again and again and again until you're sick of it and your parents are even more sick of it. But as you grow older, what you do is you tend to go out and buy the album and, you get the album home and you're excited to hear what this new band that you've just discovered, or maybe it's a band or artist that you are already a fan of and this is their latest release. And you kind of get it home and you start listening to it and you think, well, this is interesting. Maybe a bit of a slow burn on this one, and perhaps your friends who know that you're into this particular artist saying, have you heard the new one by such and such? And what do you think of it? Oh, yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. It's a bit of a slow one, this one. And eventually you admit to yourself that, yeah, the single was great, but the album's a bit of a pup. And that's what we're talking about today. 5 songs that sold me a disappointing album, starting with
Cold Day in Hell from After Hours by Gary Moore.
Yeah, the sense of excitement with this one was absolutely palpable. Gary's previous album, Still Got the Blues, quite simply it's the best album he ever recorded, in my opinion. And love that album in 50-foot tall letters, every track on it, apart from that one that I mentioned in a video a few weeks ago, That Kind of Woman. Not a bad song, but just didn't really belong on that album, I didn't think. And, he was definitely doubling down on on his return to his first love of kind of fiery blues rock. And then this single, Cold Day in Hell, came out. I mean, absolutely incendiary stuff. I think I heard it on the old Richard Skinner, or was it Johnny Walker at the time, Radio 1 show on a Saturday afternoon, when it was that Saturday afternoon kind of thing was when they used to kick all the teeny boppers out the building and play some real music. And they played the lead single off After Hours, this thing called Cold Day in Hell, and it was I still had hair in those days, and it was almost like the music coming out the speakers blew me hair backwards. It was incredible. So, okay, circle the date on the calendar when that album comes out, After Hours, and try as I might. When you have an album that you really, really want to fall in love with and you just can't quite get there, that was very much After Hours. It just seemed a little bit, whereas Still Got the Blues had an air of spontaneity about it, After Hours just seemed to be, following a recipe and maybe a little bit painting by numbers. And there's some good tracks on it. Cold Day in Hell, Story of the Blues isn't bad, but it just didn't work as an overall album. And, 6 months, a year later, was I still listening to that album? Nah. I was glad that Gary was still on the blues thing. I think possibly his next album after that might have been the BBM thing he did with Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker. It was around about that sort of time. That's a great album. But After Hours, nah. Disappointment. That was the overwhelming, lasting memory of that album. Next.
Get the Funk Out from Porno Graffiti by Extreme.
Again, another track that I heard by a band I'd never heard of before, Extreme. Heard this, as I say, on the same radio show that I was talking about in the previous example. I think it was called the Saturday Sequence. And, you know, it was just this fantastic marriage of really soulful funk and, you know, kind of high-octane, shreddy rock, and it just worked so well. The styles just melded together so brilliantly. I mean, there'd been sort of funk and rock and metal kind of crossovers before, but thinking of bands like maybe Cameo and Faith No More, but there was always a strong element of hip-hop or rap. I have no idea what the difference is between those two things, by the way. Why would I? But there was always an element of that kind of thing involved, which is a big turn-off for me, I'm afraid. But this, it was just so kind of soulful and shreddy at the same time. This song, what a guitar solo! Nuno Betancourt, what a player! And so obviously went out and bought the album. And round about the time I bought the album, that the second single came out, that acoustic ballad, More Than Words, which I will say did, provide me with a lot of lesson material when I was a fledgling guitar teacher. Wasn't a great song though, if I'm honest. I don't think it was. It was just, nice vocal harmonies, and it sort of fitted into that kind of early 90s unplugged thing that was quite big back then. But the rest of the album, I listened to it and listened to it and listened to it, but it made such a little impression on me that I'm struggling to remember the names of any of the tracks on it. I've still got like a rock playlist that I listen to on Spotify that has Get the Funk Out on it, because I think it's an amazing song. But the rest of the album, and then I think, what was the album that came out after that, follow-up album, 3 Sides to Every Story, I listened to that and it just wasn't really, it didn't really make a lasting impression. But yes, great song, album, a bit of a disappointment, it has to be said. Next.
Don't Fear the Reaper, from Agents of Fortune, by the Blue Oyster Cult.
Now, I first heard Don't Fear the Reaper on some kind of rock compilation tape that was around when I was at college. It wasn't an album that I bought. It was one of like K-Tel or that kind of thing, 30 great rock anthems or something like that. And I seem to remember Dead Ringer for Love by Meatloaf was on it, as was Rocky Mountain Way by Joe Walsh. And I got into a few, new artists via that route, one of them being Blue Oyster Cult. And it's, Don't Fear the Reaper, it's just one of those kind of tingles down the spine kind of songs, isn't it? You get goosebumps, or I do. It's just electrifying. So I thought this album is going to be something a bit special, and I apologise if Agents of Fortune is one of your favourite albums, but again, like the previous example, I listened to it and listened to it and listened to it, and it trying to kind of find a way in and find a way that I could love the album, and I just couldn't. And like I'd struggle now to name any of the other tracks off that album. I still love Don't Fear the Reaper, but the album Agents of Fortune, it doesn't get played in this house anymore. Next.
Liberty, from Passion and Warfare, by Steve Vai.
Yes, quite the buzz was going around in the guitar press. I remember Guitar Player magazine and Guitarist magazine, the two publications I used to read back in the late 80s and early 90s. I think Steve Vai's previous album had been Flexible or whatever it was called. And then he'd been off doing stuff with David Lee Roth and Whitesnake, and and now he had this brand new 7-string guitar. 6 strings weren't enough to contain his talent. He had a 7-string guitar, and he had a new album out. And again, on the Saturday afternoon BBC kind of music show, heard the first track on the album, Liberty. I think it's under 2 minutes long, but what a 2 minute ride. Just fantastic. It's like you've got Brian May kind of guitar harmonies coupled with Steve Vai shredding with the most infectious anthemic melody imaginable. Just utterly kind of like a real earworm. But, just great in every way, I thought. And I went out and bought the album, Passion and Warfare. All of the reviews in all of the guitar magazines were saying that this was a masterpiece and everything. And I think it suffered a little bit from that malaise that happened in the late 80s and early 90s when record labels thought, okay, we've got this new medium, this compact disc format, and you can fit 75 minutes of music on it. So every album had to be as close to 75 minutes in length as possible, which meant that, perhaps many tracks that would have been relegated to the B-sides and bonus tracks folder for, kind of obsessive, nerdy fans to kind of collect. They all made it onto the album, and just to kind of pad it out to the required length. And I think this album certainly suffered from that. Other tracks on there, maybe The Audience is Listening, where Steve does his whole kind of making the guitar talk thing, very clever. But once you got past the intro to that song, I'd struggle to hum a few bars of it, and the same is true of most of the rest of the album, to be honest with you. So again, another classic example of an utterly jaw-droppingly fantastic tune that sold me a bit of a pup of an album. Next.
Two Princes, from Pocket Full of Kryptonite, by the Spin Doctors.
Now, it's this goes back quite a while, actually, to the days when, I would still occasionally tune into Top of the Pops. I'd have a look in the TV listings magazine and see who was going to be on that week. Because I was still a young man in those days. I think I was still in my 20s. And, you don't like to admit that you're getting, that the onset of middle age is round the corner. So you still want to prove that you're young by watching, kind of young people's television like Top of the Pops. And, I saw that Two Princes, the Spin Doctors were on, and I kind of liked their, I'd heard the song Two Princes on the radio a few times. And, saw them obviously lip-syncing or miming to it on Top of the Pops, because that was the order of the day on that show. And I thought, it seemed an energetic performance that they did. And, the good catchy song, great guitar solo, kind of a great guitar sound as well. It was sort of the antithesis of that 80s poodle-haired, spandex-clad kind of, pointy headstock guitar tone, like a real, it was just the epitome of a Fender Stratocaster overdriving a Marshall stack. And it was just, I'm into this, kind of got a bit of good old-fashioned funky traditional rock. And went out and bought the album Pocket Full of Kryptonite. And the same is, this is a recurring theme in this video, isn't it? You listen to the album once, twice, 3 times, get to about half a dozen times, and you start thinking, when's it going to kind of start, kind of getting its claws into me and making me want to, kind of go back and listen to it again. And it just never, ever did. I spoke to a few people years ago who saw the Spin Doctors on the tour that they did for that album, and apparently they were disappointing live, apparently. And the album, the band I was in back then, there was probably one other track on the album that sort of got me halfway there, something called Little Miss Can't Be Wrong, and we covered that in our band. I'd lobbied to do Two Princes, but I didn't get me way. I think the singer wanted to do Little Miss Can't Be Wrong. So that wasn't a bad track. It was sort of borderline B-side material, I thought, and the rest of the album was definitely, I thought, B-side material. Just didn't live up to expectations that the single Two Princes promised. So there you go. Those are the 5 tracks that sold me, 5 fantastic songs that sold me a bit of a dud of an album. I'm sure you've got a similar list yourself, so let me know what that is down in the comments section. Or if you disagree with any of my choices here, then, again, the comments section is where to vent your spleen and, do so with abandon. And that is the video for today, folks. Hope you've enjoyed my little ramblings today, and if that's the case, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so, and why not drop me a like as well while you're at it. Don't forget the live stream every Friday, 5 p.m. UK time. We drink beer and talk about music and guitars and other stuff as well. It's a great way to kick off the weekend, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.